So we are live and let's get started. I am so excited to have this conversation with you where we are going to talk about and really dive into the specifics of AIization and technology interventions in insurance agencies and how we are really looking at the future where the shape, form, the way they operate would be so different. And very excited to and a warm welcome to the show today. Let's get started. I would like to sort of open this up with, the topic that you only proposed because you're so passionate about it. So why not just give a quick introduction before we dive into our chat?
Yeah, perfect. My name's Michelle. I'm over operations at SimplyIOA. We are a data-driven, technology-forward insurance agency, and we have adopted a cloud-based model. We are enabling AI tools and automations within our organization. We are an independent agency. So for those that weren't able to attend the previous episode, we dove into the difference between captive agencies and independent agencies and some of the differences in how you recruit and your talent and how you build that structure. So go back and check that one out if you want to hear more about it. But we're really passionate about not just our external customers and the clients that we bring on, but our employees. Our employees are customers. So it is on our leadership team to serve our employees and make sure that they are powered with the best tools to support their workflows and how they ultimately service our external clients and our large partners. So today we'll get more into the specifics of what that adoption looks like, what you should look for, and what organizations should be considering. And my hope is that we can take some of the fear and negative connotation around AI and get back to being excited about how it enables our teams. So I'm grateful to be here and happy to have this part 2 to such an important topic.
Thank you so much. That's a wonderful introduction. And I'm so glad that you said that because, it's all about what AI going to take away our jobs? And I remember last episode was about how trainers in the AI world would be more of business drivers than internal just talent drivers. And really, I love that point that stayed with me. And I can't tell you, like, since then, I had spoken about it to so many clients, and it's just like really a delight. And people have started looking at, how those competencies of the future look like. So we have got our clients thinking, what are the competencies of the future? How our roles are emerging and evolving, and what as humans we would be doing along with AI instead of without it. So I think I'm quite excited for this session today. So let's dive into our first question, which is just can you help our audience really take a sneak peek into the future from big brick and mortar agencies that exist today? Where are we headed, and how are we looking at something as cloud contact centers and AI-enabled contact centers?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll hit a couple points and I'll bring in some real examples. Even as recent as last year, our organization acquired an agency that was really dominant in the South Florida area. And even as recent as last year, it was a brick and mortar facility and we had to scan paperwork. We had to scan in documents and input all of these clients into our system. So there is especially in this time of consolidation where a lot of organizations are finding synergies by merging and acquiring and selling bits and pieces, there is still a lot of disruption in how you bring on brick and mortar facilities to a cloud based structure, right? So where the backbone is more of a cloud-based organization. And what we should all be excited about for moving away from brick and mortar is access to information. You physically don't have to go into the filing cabinet area to find the folder, to find the notes that hopefully someone left. And you can have quick access to a well-managed database system. So it sounds crazy to say that at 2025, but that's still the shift that's going on, right? So is moving away from facilities. Don't even get me started on the cost to support facilities, but really enabling how you can access information, have better business continuity, so that way you're not, limited to a structure that's in a disaster prone area, either on the West Coast or on the East Coast. Now you have better business continuity to support your customers. You can source talent nationally and you can find the right people, and that's not limited to where they're physically located. For so many reasons, it's such a great shift. And while it's uncomfortable, and a lot of individuals, are going to have questions, and for some generations, it feels impossible. We say the word cloud and they picture things floating around physically in the sky. But I would also say it's the same thing to be said about when we start talking about how we're using AI, right? So everyone hears the word artificial. We joke internally that AI stands for access to information, or accelerate information, accelerate insights. And when we start to think about the value it delivers, the terms and the way that it has sort of like a voodoo about it, or a mystery about it, goes away, because you can hone in on the value that it adds, being cloud-based versus on-prem, and using AI and automation, versus manual workflows where you have risk and process breakdowns. So it's such a positive shift. And remember, there's growth in the discomfort. And I think as leaders, we all need to take that stance that this is a great movement for organizations, and it only enables better talent, which means better service, which means a better customer experience.
That's so interesting. And just to sort of ask a follow-up question on that, do you see any specific processes that are going to be majorly disrupted when we really will make that shift?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's think about just the customer experience, both customer as far as, whoever you're engaging with, and how your agents or team members interact with them. Now customers and consumers want information right away, right? If they're interested at this moment to shop insurance or to look at buying a home, everything is at everyone's fingertips. And so what we as organizations have to adjust is, all right, if that individual wants to chat, what functionality are you enabling that has the interface of chatting in real time? And it cannot now be limited to business hours or even weekends. And then also, if you have someone that utilizes a browser-based journey, how are you accelerating that information and keeping it current from wherever you're generating those sources? Then you still have to meet customers that want to engage through telephony. So they want to call in and they want to ask specific questions. How are we enabling voice agents and having intelligent information to interact with that customer and say, what do I think you're calling about? How can I ask some quick questions that can discern where you want to go, right? Do you have a complaint? Do you need something escalated? Would you like a new service? So think about where you need to meet your customer and how you're meeting them today, and whatever limitations you have today, whether it's operating hours, weekday, your how you power your phones. Any pain point today that limits your customer interaction can be broken down quickly by enabling something, leveraging AI or automation. And that is where it should excite us. It shouldn't create fear. And you just have to make sure that you're thorough in, think about your phones. How do you receive that information when you aren't staffed? How are you then delivering it to your agents to say, hey, Michelle called on a Saturday, she was shopping, we sent her 2 quotes, follow up Monday at 9 a.m. So the possibilities are endless. And I think everyone should be considering their own workflows, and where can you have small change to get, adoption of your users, and then have champions within the organization that get so excited about what this new enablement is.
So interesting. And in fact, just to add one point to that, I really like the fact that, what you're talking about in the moment support for customers and really asking those right questions. I'm also seeing that there is a shift towards multi-channel policyholder engagement, right? So interacting on various cloud platforms. So when we talk about cloud agencies, it's about integrating all those channels, right? So what messages are we getting from voice, email, chat, SMS, messaging apps, self-serving tools? There is so much happening around. And if we can just simply combine all those messages, then that can lead to boosting satisfaction and retention for customers. So that is something that I'm seeing as 30 to 45% organizations looking at from a multi-channel engagement as well.
Yeah, and that's where it's important, right, for every organization to consider their tech stack, to watch where the dead ends land, right? So make sure that you have a great database, great data integrity, so that way when one application or one journey, completes, how does it then transpose that information to your customer record in your CRM or your agency management system, whatever that is, so that the next either automation or the next agent that picks up that customer interaction, they know what's happened before. You don't want to have a dead end where one application only refreshes every Monday or what have you. You want to really make sure that you have that continuity through all of your workflows, so your customer record is always exactly what that customer is expecting, right? If I called in and left a message and I already provided all of the information, it's a bad experience for me to then talk again the next time and have to give back all of that information. So you really have to just follow it through and keep it customer centric, leverage data driven decisions, and make sure that, we're keeping up with the multi-channel, multi-engagement paths that our customers expect.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that you spoke about, right? Another very, very critical thing, that now leaders have real time operational visibility till the last mile. They know every single interaction. With the help of tech and integrating all these channels, they can exactly know what's happening on the ground. They can dynamically adjust different messaging and raise, agent oversight capacity by a very high percentage, right? So that's one thing that's coming into the picture along with tech, that we now have far more data and data to look at and really course correct more often.
Exactly. I mean, I think about some of the analytics that I've seen just in the outputs from Eubrics and from your tool. I have a recent example where I audited a call, and my first question was, man, why did that agent not upsell for auto? A customer called in about savings on their home, and it was a great call. It was pleasant. There wasn't any kind of harsh tone, or there was no alert really raised for that call. But the insights that you can gain from tools that have analytics and that are able to know an agent should always ask, I don't have your auto insurance, perhaps I can save you there. That was a missed opportunity. Rewind 6 months, rewind a year, we don't have call miner and the data insights or the analytics that are saying that call had a missed opportunity. There's so many missed opportunities that you don't have visibility to, that now with all of the emerging tech and how fast these applications are moving, instead of me physically listening to that call and knowing we could have upsold and asked about auto, that can be brought to the manager, supervisors, or QA's attention and saying, hey, here's a great opportunity to coach this individual. Here's a great opportunity to show, yes, that person was only calling about their home, but we should have inquired about auto. We could have helped them there. So, man, the things that these tools and analytics can empower our sales agents to be even more successful, which then increases the lifetime value of the customer, keeps the customer happy. The revenue that this can enable and the value add it gives us as an organization, it is like nothing we've seen before, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's very powerful as well. So quite excited about the future. So coming to one very important consideration, when we look at tech, when we look at digital interventions, we also know that 70% of digital transformations and changes fail. And that has been a pattern. And that's because people don't adopt it. There is a very heavy component of change management, people being open to idea, embracing technology, and that takes forever. And we have seen, me being a HR consultant for a decade now, I always see my clients complaining about pumping in millions and billions of dollars into digital transformations and seeing any kind of uptake or people not changing. So Referring back to our last episode's conversation, a quick refresher on agent enablement as we move into AI world, and also what it means when it comes to uh, what role agents can play in this new world is something that I would like to touch base once more.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I'll hit on the first element that you mentioned, and that is, how do we get adoption? Because your product, your process, your application, what you're really trying to show proof of value is dependent on adoption. You need real adoption, real metrics, real information and insight to adjust and to then scale that application. So I think, in general, before I get into advisor and agent enablement, is I would encourage everyone to think about, you have to have a control group that is open to giving feedback and using an application in production. So gone are the days, because tech is moving so fast, gone are the days of, running an agile method just in testing environments. You have to have a group of users that is open to using, cutting edge technology. Internally, we call them our trailblazers. You have to incentivize them and get them excited, to use this information. And they have to be just as excited to use the tool or the application as they are to give feedback. Feedback is critical in using that application so that then they become your champions into the wider organization. Now you have users that have had a vested interest in making sure it's good enough, right, for the masses. And now those are your champions in the organization that are saying, this is really cool. This has helped me go from 2 sales a day to 7, or this has helped me, go from 1 policy a client to 3. So they'll have real stories because they've been a part of that early adoption, and they're going to be your champions into the organization. So there's so much there, but I think it's important we all get out of our test environments and our sandbox, and you have a real group that's helping you put the finishing touches on these applications. So then when you do that, right, how is that changing us specifically for insurance agents? We talked about this before, but we'll restate it here. It's removing removing some of the minutia, the easy work, so that our agents shift into a consultant mode. So if a consumer already entered in their information, we may confirm a couple data elements, but we're not taking them through a 21 questionnaire because they've already provided that information and we've enriched the information. So now I know what your property details are, and I'm confirming it's a 3-bedroom, not 2. All that does is it takes away the transactional agent. I'm just keying stuff in my computer, and really I'm listening. I'm listening to you, that you have a family, that you have a child of driving age. I'm listening to, that you maybe have a recreational vehicle, and you shift into that advisory role. That's where now you're developing the trust and you have that integrity behind being their advisor, and they're trusting you with protecting their financial assets. So enabling your team members to focus so heavily on getting to know the human on the other side of the phone and consider what products shape and mold best to their lifestyle. That's how you're going to have higher conversion rates, which means higher sales, which means higher revenue, and we're all happy. And then those, hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in tech are worth it. But the tools and applications have to take away the easy work for your telephony-based team members and let them really, really advise and get to know who they're speaking about, so they can put forth the best culmination of products that makes sense and it meets them where the customer needs to be met. And that's what's so powerful about shifting away from just an insurance agent to a trusted advisor. And it's the tools and technology that allows them to do that.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. In fact, again, taking a reference point from one of the conversations I was having with one of the largest insurance providers in United States, and what they told us was that, we don't want our agents to be selling products. We want them to be selling solutions, right? So if I have a problem as a customer, I want you to solve my problem. I want you to listen to my problem and not rattle off features, benefits, stuff like that. Like that's like very stage. And also they said that, we have a whole portal where you can go as a customer and really explore features if you just want features. As a customer, I'm not looking for those features. I'm talking to you, I'm spending time on a call because I want you to listen to me, understand
Mhm.
my requirements, and then tailor, even if it's a
Right.
standard product. I just want you to tailor. And that personalization and trusted advisor is a role that they acquire by constantly personalizing, asking the right questions in the right way, not in a
Mhm.
very threatening, pushing way. So
Mhm.
I think there is so much to it, right? There's so much depth to it.
There is depth, yeah, because this is where we're transforming. We're not just reading a script because that script doesn't apply to everyone. And consumers can tell now when you're just reading off a script. So you have to be able to discern, is this person, are they frustrated? Are they short on time? Are they verbose and we're going to be on the phone for a while? Like, how can you also we have to help give our team members muscle memory so they can be used to a situation where someone's frustrated. How can we train them and show them a frustrated customer, or show them someone who's short on time, or show them someone that's just, we call them a Walmart shopper, like they just want the cheapest rate. So maybe the cheapest rate individual, you don't spend 6 minutes talking about all the features, right? You get straight to what they're asking, you find them the best quality coverage at a competitive price, and you thank them for their business and have a great follow-up strategy. So taking it back to the heart of obviously how we met, which is, how can we afford the team's exposure to all these different situations, that way when they're in that customer interaction, it's muscle memory. They know to pivot, into an upsell feature style pitch, or they know to go straight to asking for the sale, present the price, and have, clear instructions on what's happening next. So we have to help our team members be comfortable advising and always have that consultative approach. And that comes through training and muscle memory.
Yeah, so true. And I have a question for you on that. Do you really think AI is clever enough to really understand or measure, quantify whether an agent is able to build trust, or do you think it's still up in the air?
So I I think it's 75% of the way there. And why I say that is it's extremely impressive when you see the outputs of a great tool that can tell you tone, voice inflection, and word choice, right? So that's where, yes, we can have QA teams and humans that are listening to calls and making a judgment decision on how they think the call went. But what a great AI application is able to do is not have any bias or favor. If I'm listening to QA calls, but I've had a really rough morning, I may be short fused in making judgment calls and decisions that on a good day I would be deciding they sounded differently to me, right? So what AI does is it creates a standard and a baseline, and that's really hard to do if you have human individuals trying to do the same function. So I say it's 75% because it's certainly not perfect. We are getting to a state where there is enough data and insight out there, and applications are running long enough that they're getting really good. But it is such a higher jump off point to help organizations make decisions, because what our AI tools are able to do now is volumes of calls with a standard and give quick insights in real time. And the amount of manpower that takes just to get there is why it's so worth investing in a great tool that does that for you. And so my short answer is yes, but where you're going to see the sophistications grow is the more you use it in your custom use cases and exactly what your industry or your agents need, the more it's trained on that level of customization, it gets so sophisticated. So that's where we all can push it to be tailored to our organization and what we expect our experiences to be, what we expect them to yield. And you pump in those benchmark good, use cases, you flag and tag those experiences that are the expectation. And now you're measuring to what you want. So I say 75% out of box, and it's on our own organizations, use cases to help it get closer to that 100 spot.
That's amazing. Yeah, so true. And those three factors, which is, the tone, voice inflection, and word choice, really creates like a spectrum of outcomes and the trust that a person is able to build. And not just that, it's also about giving them feedback in the moment that, look, you can fine tune your choice of words like this, you can do this instead of that. So it's more like, I have like a real time coach who's always looking at me and giving me advice in a very safe
Yeah.
environment.
We think about, so I keep saying Copilot, but Microsoft uses Copilot, so we got to find a different word. But yeah, it's someone riding alongside that's able to help you adjust and accelerate that feedback. We mentioned that a lot last time, but you're getting feedback so closer to the moment that you're able to do intraday adjustments or intra-week adjustments. Whereas, getting away from, well, last month, or even 6 weeks ago, I audited this one call. So much time has passed, especially in a large contact center, where, if we're doing 500, 600, 700 interactions a day, you need to be able to make those adjustments closer to the time that's happening. So it just accelerates that feedback. And it's wonderful. Our teammates are going to be all the more valuable to your organization because of it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. So now we are almost at the fag end. So I'll just quickly ask my one last question to you, that what kind of metrics are we looking at when it comes to digital insurance agencies, and what can AI contribute to those business metrics?
Yeah, so if you're running in a contact center, right? So if you're a little more higher volume, you're never going to not look at average handle time. So you want to look at the calls that are exceeding your baseline handle time. Is that because it's in a high risk state or a complex situation, right? You're always going to look at average handle time. No matter what, you always look at your conversion rates. And so we look at yield, right? If an agent is taking 20 calls a day, we expect them to make 3 to 4 sales a day. And so how many shots on goal you have, how many of those turn into customers? And then that clearly becomes, how great is an agent with policy count per client? So are they always just doing the one sale for the one product line the customer called? Or are they always upselling and bundling in products? And then that translates into your sales. Obviously, naturally, we're always going to watch revenue. So the output of an individual team member, how effective can they be with their time? So when they are productive, how effective are they on the call? Are they continuously bundling and considering other products separate from the one that the person is calling about? And that translates into sales. So what AI enables is that efficiency. So if you notice, and we have this, if you notice that you have a team member whose yield is so low and they are burning through opportunity, pull them into different modules and talk about and really look in the analytics. Are they not asking for the sale? Are they rushing through the call? Are they missing opportunities? Those things we couldn't see before. That's where you flip those underperformers and improve their opportunity. And those become, your agents and your team members that now have growth, and they've felt the investment from the organization into training, where you've pulled them aside and said, hey, I'm going to help make you better. I'm going to help you serve our customers better. And now you've bought in that employee even more because they see it in the numbers, right? Now their yield's going up, their sales is going up, their commission's going up. So I really think it powers us to improve what our talent is, not just in onboarding, but also ongoing with your employees. And we can do that so much quicker. You're not waiting 6, 7, 8, 9 months to help somebody improve their sales per day.
Interesting. Yeah, that's amazing. Yes, I think those are some of the metrics where we try to also sort of wire our customers. We are trying to quantify that how are we getting the same output, but in much lesser time, right? So
Right.
efficiency. Last time we discussed about the nesting period. How can we reduce that? And how can we make a person who would be able to talk to customers after 90 days of training on the job, can we get them ready in 15 days? So
Right.
here's a new goal that we are trying to chase as Eubrics as well, that how can we shorten that period from 20 days to 15 days to 13 days, 12 days. And, every single productive day is equal to lots and lots of savings and more revenue for contact centers. So I think every hour matters. So, and one of the clients, in fact, asked us, so what is the difference really between getting an AI versus a trainer? And what I told them was that, it's about efficiency, scale, and speed, right? So you are looking at all three levers and driving them together towards your growth.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. Just take it back to an athlete, right? So if a baseball player has feedback on every single at bat, or they have feedback on every single play that they make, whether they hit or they strike out, you still have a head coach. So think of your trainers as your head coaches of the team. They're guiding everyone on the same mission. But now what your AI tools are doing is they're that pitch coach, they're the batting coach. They are the specialty coach and giving instant feedback after every play. You think about your runners, right? So if they had someone that's letting them know, I mean, look at your race, your Formula One drivers, everyone's got someone in their ear that's giving them real-time feedback, real-time adjustments to impact that race or that at bat or that play. That's what AI is like. And while what you're never going to not have is, a team owner or a head coach, that's the human element, right? That's where you get into your trainers and then your management to help guide everyone strategically. But what we're able to do now is give them that person in their ear to make real-time adjustments and give feedback. So the next call, the next play, the next game, the next at bat is better.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, I mean, I wish I had that kind of coach when I
Right.
was learning tricks in the early stages of my career. That would
Yeah.
have saved me so many years. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, true. Awesome. So this was amazing. Thank you so much, Michelle, for your time today. I have a few questions. I would not take more than a few minutes of your time, but would love to answer some questions. So there's one question from audience where Mansi asks, what's the biggest blocker agencies face when scaling AI beyond pilot stages?
We kind of mentioned it earlier, but I would say what the biggest challenge is getting buy-in from your users, right? So pilot stages, you have to make sure firstly that you're using real users. This cannot just be someone that is a BA or a dev using it in a sandbox and you say you piloted it, right? You cannot run it in such a small environment. We have to be controlled enough to use that pilot stage on real production. It needs to be real experiences, real use cases. And that feedback, so the users that become a part of that pilot group, we have to hear that feedback. When they see that feedback looped in, or they hear the why behind maybe the limitation that's there, you have to have that bi-directional feedback, because what makes it successful to move from a pilot phase to wider adoption is flipping those pilot users into your champions. Let them be the team leader then into, a phase 2. So if you go from 5 users to 15, buddy up those 5 to your other 15 and let them encourage users to use it. And obviously you have to have adoption metrics. You have to track utilization and take action. If there's an expectation that you expect users to use this and you need utilization at an 85%, report out to your group. I think so often we hide performance when it isn't good. But if you show where we're coming up short, then you get a buy-in from the organization to get better, right? Hey guys, we're only at 70% utilization. Let's get that last 15% up. Bidirectional feedback and bidirectional visibility into performance is key. And your leaders have got to stand behind it for sure.
Yeah. I think that's so true, because a lot of times if leaders are not behind that, it doesn't matter how good technology is.
Mm-hmm.
And from both sides, transparency really plays a very critical role, where leaders, if they are alongside on pilot success, it actually can be considered as a larger gain that organization gets,
Exactly.
and they have to really participate in that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Akriti asks, can you share one surprising learning from Eubrics rollout at SimplyIOA, like what you
Yeah.
have been at?
Yeah. I'll hit these quick because I like the next question too. I'm very transparent. We actually let our trainer use it before we've, did any kind of rollout. And hearing him, how impressed he was, it was interesting. We had a call and he was driving to the Eubrics team, his experience. He actually drove the call, not knowing that Eubrics was supposed to be training him. So we were excited at how quick we saw outcomes and outputs that were valuable just off the shelf, right? Just as it's designed. That was before we did any level of customization. That's the phase that we're entering now. So the trainers quickly saw, and I let them talk about how great the product was versus me telling them how great it was. I know that's a little unique because we're a startup organization and we're able to do that, but we've seen great success in finding those champions. So it's not Michelle, SVP of operations, saying, guys, this is cool, you have to use it. It's the real trainers that, it's impacting their day to day who fell in love with the product. So that was exciting. That was probably one of the most surprising moments for us.
I think I was also completely blown away by what I heard. So yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so we have next question, which is how do the trainers or sales enablement team feel about using AI for training? Do they feel that it eases out their effort and makes it more efficient?
Yes. So what it's doing, I mentioned, I would encourage you to make sure you listen to the episode from before, because we talked about this a lot. So the quick takeaway there was, it actually makes the trainers more powerful. So instead of them having to dedicate so much time to one-on-one coachings or role playing, they're able to say to however many are in that onboarding class, hey, everyone go participate in this module 5 times, 10 times, whatever the number is that your organization needs. And they're reviewing the outputs. And now when they interact with the trainee, they're adding value. Hey, Michelle, I really think we could do some work on assumptive sell. You're so great with your opening at 10 out of 10 on 10 calls, but let's focus here. So now they're not spending the time of hearing the call, the manpower that it takes for them to do those one-on-one calls. They're just delivering value. It's coaching and coaching. It gets them more into coaching and out of the process. So that was a quick hit, but I would encourage you to rewatch last week's because we talked a lot about how it impacts the trainers.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, one last question. How do you ensure frontline agents actually adopt and trust AI tools?
So I'll answer this personally because I know we can't apply this to every organization. We set expectations with toll gates, right? So let's say we roll out a pilot, we do it for 6 weeks, then that pilot group grows, and at the next phase, we try to make sure that we're at least 50% of users, if not more. Once we start getting into 75% users and 100, we clearly communicate, hey, you are rolling onto this process July 1st. As of August 1st, these other old processes will not be an option after. So we take two approaches, and I know this sounds a little stern, but it's the way we force adoption. We either let them know that the old process is no longer accessible. So we will do an auto archive, or we'll turn off a previous enablement, or we'll turn off an application. It will go away and make it virtually impossible to go back to the manual process. Or if we can't do that, and a user is still able to avoid the AI enablement, then we let them know as part of their auditing, their quality checks, this is now a new metric, your utilization of that AI enablement. We give time, and we give coaching, and we have success stories, so we clearly communicate what those deadlines are. But we let the group remind them, this is the why, this is why we are moving there. If you have any questions, we can bring you back into the pilot team, and that's where we'll partner them with a champion to help them overcome that fear of why they don't want to use a certain process. And for us personally, we take those 2 routes. We either we've completely removed an application or dissolved a process, so you can't go back to the old way. Or we manage and monitor, who's reaccessing that workflow or who's accessing that old application. And we have coachings there and bring it into QA.
Interesting. Yeah, that's advice. Amazing. So I think, yes, we are good. We have got a lot of questions and interaction from audience, and this was really fun, Michelle. Thank you for spending time with us, and loved having you here. And hopefully we'll get on to a fireside chat once more very soon. But so far, it has been amazing. So thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.